Okay. Hey everybody, welcome back to the LuckyDog podcast. This is your host, Elias Rouse. Today we are discussing WandaVision, Season 1, Episode 1 through 5. We're just kind of going to do a little wrap-up summation of what the hell's been going on the last few weeks with this show. Everyone knows that this is the events that are taking place after the events of Avengers Endgame and a little bit during at some points. But so just wanted to let everyone know we are going to talk about the Marvel MCU. So if you are spoiler-verse about any of that stuff, it's going to be a little bit difficult to talk about it, but I'll try my best just to kind of keep it to just saying the Avengers Endgame and then WandaVision. So those will be the main things we'll be discussing, and I'll try not to spoil too much outside of that. WandaVision is an American television miniseries created by Jack Schaefer for the streaming service Disney Plus, based on the Marvel Comics characters Wanda Maximoff / Scarlet Witch and Vision. Set in the MCU, it shares continuity with the films of the franchise and takes place after the events of the film Avengers Endgame. WandaVision is produced by Marvel Studios, and Schaefer serving as head writer and Matt Shakman directing. So I actually didn't realize that Jack Schaefer was a female, but I guess maybe that's her name, Jacqueline. She has also co-written Captain Marvel and upcoming Black Widow. Okay, so I'm just kind of looking at her resume of in television. This is her first television stuff. She's been in film as a screenwriter for the past few movies. Captain Marvel and Black Widow, it looks like. Let's see what else we got on WandaVision before we go into more spoiler-verse stuff. Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany, what can I say about them? They are acting their hearts out in these roles as Wanda and Vision. Without going into too much spoiler by spoiler episode, let me just talk about the first episode real quick. The first episode, I think, was a take on Dick Van Dyke, and it's the "honey, I'm home" kind of shit. And then the second episode went into more of a "I Love Lucy" type homage. And then the third one was the Brady Bunch, I believe. And then the fourth one, kind of a flashback. And then the fifth one is more of the real life stuff going on and in the real world kind of stuff. And so I believe next week is 6. So just as a summation of what's going on in each episode. All right, so let's discuss this real quick, episode by episode. We're not going to go too in depth on this, I don't want to go on the nitty gritty on WandaVision, because I think there's plenty of YouTube videos out there that are going in the Easter eggs. What does that mean? What does that mean? Why are there hexagons everywhere? Why is there a helicopter in the bushes? Why is all this happening? There's going to be much better podcasts that are going to be geared to that. Personally, I like the Double Toasted podcast has a podcast roundup on WandaVision every Sunday. Let me think who else. Slash Film Daily has a good podcast that you can check out. This is more or less going to be like an execution. Do I think that Marvel is executing the WandaVision show in the correct manner? In short form, I gotta say, for the first 5 episodes, absolutely. When I had just watched the first episode and the second one, I was like, I don't know if this is going to work all the way. Now, I should have trusted them a little bit more, but overall, what I would say is, without going into full spoilers on all of these episodes, they've nailed it. The thing is, I think they were a little bit indulgent at the beginning and maybe trusting the audience to stick along and for the ride. I do feel like you have to stick with this show to the 3rd or 4th episode to really feel the full punch of what's happening in this show. And so, with saying that, overall, I'm extremely glad that this is coming out weekly. It gives us something to talk about and listen to weekly. It's got the water cooler show. It's got the Lost vibes. Why are things changing in the background? Why are people acting weird? Why is this plot happening? Why are all these things? Laying out an essential mystery for us to follow. And I'm enjoying the overarching story of that and the weirdness and the constructed weirdness of this show. My biggest complaints would have been the first two episodes where I feel like they indulge in the sitcom aspect of this a little bit too much. But after that, I'm enjoying the balance of the real world versus what's happening in this WandaVision show. And so, excuse me. All right. So there's a lot of characters going on. We're not going to go through all of the entire thing. Set 3 weeks after the events of Avengers Endgame, Wanda Maximoff and Vision are living an idyllic suburban life in Townview, New Jersey, trying to conceal their true natures as they begin to enter new decades and encounter television tropes. The couple suspects that things are not as they seem. Now, the first two episodes, without going... I'm going to start talking about the first two episodes in spoilers, so here we go. The first two episodes do the Dick Van Dyke and then the I Love Lucy tropes and, homages. And I got to say, they stick with it the entire, 30 minutes. And I was a little bit surprised for them to stick with this entire thing going on for... the shindig of having the laugh track in the background, having, black and white for the first two episodes. I was like, they are really just going hog wild on this show. They are committing to it. And since I think the first two episodes released on the same day? Yeah, they were. So I do think that the way they gave the majority of the screeners, they gave the first three episodes to to critics, and I feel like the third episode is where it kind of hooks people in, and I do feel like that's a lot of stuff to watch before you can get that hook. If it's taking an hour and a half to get this hook, it's like so I totally saw what people were saying when they were first coming into this, saying, I loved Nick at Night. I loved watching, what was it, the George Lopez show, I'm trying to think, it was Family Matters on there. You have Fresh Prince. I was kind of more 90s. You had The Nanny, you had Home Improvement. You had all these laugh track type style 90s, a little bit of 80s shows. And you can clearly see that these aren't doing the 80s or 90s. They were pushing back as far as the 50s, 60s, and then third episodes, I believe, 70s. And so let me just go into the synopsis real quick on these two episodes. Newlywed couple Wanda and Vision move into the Townview of 1950s setting, despite Vision being an android and Wanda having telekinesis and reality warping abilities. They attempt to blend in. One day they notice a heart drawn on their calendar, but neither can remember what the occasion is. While Vision goes to his job at computational services, Wanda decides that the heart represents their anniversary. Their neighbor Agnes introduces herself to Wanda and helps to prepare to celebrate that night. Vision amazes his coworkers with his speed, but is unsure what his company actually does. He is reminded that he and Wanda are hosting his boss, Mr. Hart, and his wife for dinner that night. One of the many tropes that you would have in older sitcom television shows when it comes down to oh no, we got the boss coming over, we got to impress him, guy, or we got to do something before my wife finds out, or we got to get the car fixed before the family finds out. I don't know, something crazy is normally introduced and having to be fixed within the 20 to 30 minute timeline, and it's very episodic and not serialized. So Wanda and struggle Wanda and Vision struggle to hide their abilities while making a last-minute dinner for the Harts. While interrogating Wanda and Vision, Mr. Hart chokes on his food, and Vision uses his abilities to save him. All of this takes place in the fictional sitcom WandaVision, which someone is watching on a television. Now, this is supposed to be the hook at the end of the first episode, and it's like, this was talked about for a long time about somebody, or that this was all taking place in someone's head, that it's not actually happening, but we don't actually know what's going on at the beginning of the season. So all we know is someone's watching the television show, and there is a commercial at this during the WandaVision program, advertises a Stark Industries toaster mate 2000 toaster. I don't know. There's supposed to be little clues that are happening on these advertising on the advertisements like this. I will say there was a show that we covered maybe 2 years ago. We covered all 4 seasons, and they had one episode where they did the 90s style laugh track of what's going on. I really enjoyed how they did that laugh track 90s style. It was a season 2 for the show I'm talking about. I don't want to say it out loud, because if you happen to watch it, then you're going to be like, oh shit, that was amazing. Or you're going to be surprised. I don't want to spoil it. Episode 2, Don't Touch the Dial. So I do like how the different titles have like what they would normally say in front of television broadcasting, like filmed in front of a large studio audience, Don't Touch the Dial, Now in Color, and then We Interrupt This Program. They all have something to do with what's going on in the WandaVision show. So Don't Touch That Dial. In a 1960s setting, it's kind of fourth wall breaking in a way. Wanda and Vision hear strange noises outside their house. They prepare their magic act for a neighborhood talent show. Wanda and Agnes spend the day with the show planning committee led by Dottie and Vision. And Vision attends a neighborhood watch meeting where he accidentally swallows some gum. Wanda befriends another neighbor, Geraldine, and notices strange things. A yellow and red toy helicopter in their black and white world. A voice on the radio that seems to be speaking to her in a red blood stain. Thanks to gum caught in his internal mechanisms, Vision appears to be intoxicated at the talent show and publicly reveals his abilities. Wanda uses her own abilities to make this look like simpler magic tricks, and fixes Vision by removing the gum. They return home, and Wanda becomes visibly pregnant when they see visibly pregnant. This is where we find out where the timeline is completely wonky. Just all of a sudden she's pregnant. I think they slept together at the end of the first episode, and then all of a sudden she's pregnant in this episode. When they see a strange beekeeper emerging from a manhole on the street, Wanda resets the reality to before the figure appears. The setting then becomes colorful as it changes to the 1970s. So I did love seeing the transition of the color. I completely forgot the color happens at the end of episode 2. The black and white was getting a little bit stale in my opinion with the laugh track. I was like, they are going hog wild with the commitment to this. And I was just saying that it was hard to get on board with these first 2 episodes, majorly because the strangest things we saw was a beekeeper coming out of a manhole, and a little bit of weirdness happening on episode 2, which I had heard some people connect to saying it felt more like a Twilight episode at some points. And I definitely felt that. But when this movie isn't 100% going full sitcom, when the show is going that, it feels like, yeah, the strangeness of the world is something I want them to indulge in more. And so, a commercial during the WandaVision program advertises Strucker watches. And I think Strucker has something to do with, like, Hydra or something like that. They have some... the next one has Hydra, soap bath powder or something like that. I don't know. There's some possibility that this has to do with her... timeline back way before in the comics. She had some Hydra stuff happen in the back. I think she was, I don't know, was she programmed by Hydra or like fixated by Hydra? Hydra had something to do with her and her brother, Quicksilver. being created and whatnot. So let's talk about episode 3, Now in Color. Hold on. Before that, I got to say Agnes has some strange things going on with her. Before I forget everything about Agnes, she's always trying to like help out Wanda. This is a little bit of like prediction stuff, but I think Agnes has a little bit more going on to her than what meets the eye. And so we have episode 3. Episode 3, Now in Color. Dr. Nielsen checks on Wanda's pregnancy and says she's 4 months along and everything will be fine before leaving for an intended holiday with his wife. While Vision sees Nielsen out of it, he sees his neighbor Herb unknowingly cut through their wall. He was like, "How's it going?" And I was like, "Oh yeah," and he just didn't acknowledge it at all. Almost like at this point, I didn't know if people were being mind controlled. I didn't know if people were even existed, but I was like, because they use fake backgrounds and they're always constantly changing the set, which is what I'm really enjoying about the show. Is I'm like, you got to like do a double take because you're like, holy shit, has that been there the whole time? And so, yeah. Cut through the wall. Wanda and Vision paint a nursery while debating on what to name their child before Wanda's pregnancy elevates to 6 months. When she begins contractions, her abilities begin to move things around the house and eventually shut down the entire town's power. And so this was really intense. I love how they're using a blend of CGI and real life practical effects with showing I think this was the Brady Bunch episode where they have like the big stairs and the colors are all radical and everything like that. But I loved how things were just going crazy. I remember the paintings is like spinning in the background. You got the pelican. It's like, you know, just like things are going haywire. The electricity. The thing about this episode was I felt like we really got to see them use their powers to the extent where not only the powers of the characters, but we got to use them for like funny gags and stuff like that. I feel like we have such pretty decent CGI now where we don't have to have nearly as bad as practical effects on some parts. And then I just feel like if we had a television show that has a nice blend of practical and CGI, that it could be really good at this point, even with the laugh track. I definitely feel that. And again, I haven't watched many laugh track television shows, sitcoms. The ones I would most equate to it would be like Schitt's Creek could have easily had a laugh track. It didn't. It could have been one of those shows where it definitely feels like a sitcom. Let me see what else. I didn't really watch too much 2.5 Men, but Big Bang Theory, those seem to be like the last few big sitcoms that came out to an extent that I was like, yeah, these are high level, highly produced, and I don't know, maybe there is a niche for it where we can have a laugh track back, but we also have this nice blend of practical and everything. So anyways, so yeah, the time is all wonky. Everyone seems to be accepting it. And the magic seems to be flooding into the world more and more. When she begins she shuts down the entire power, the town's power. Geraldine arrives and helps Wanda deliver twins, Tommy and Billy. Vision catches Agnes and Herb gossiping outside. They talk about Geraldine, who has just arrived in town and does not have a home or family inside. Yeah, so like, where did Geraldine even come from? Inside, Wanda interrogates Geraldine after later reveals that she knows Ultron killed Wanda's twin brother, Pedro. Wanda notices that Geraldine is wearing a pendant with a sword and emblem on it. When Vision returns, Geraldine is gone outside of Westview. Sorry. When Vision returns, Geraldine is gone. This is very ominous, to be honest. Outside of Westview, Geraldine is cast outside from a wall of static that is surrounded by sword agents. Now, this is when we, as the audience, start to understand as the public audience understand, okay, so there seems to be this big surrounding wall that is going around this entire town. It's not 100% shown that, but we can kind of see there's a perimeter set. A commercial during the WandaVision program during episode 3 advertises Hydra-soaked bath powder. So I'm not 100% sure what these commercials mean. I've done a little bit of research with listening and stuff. Some people say maybe each one of the episodes has something to do with an Infinity Stone that might still be there. I don't know. There's different colors and whatnot. Possibly. I'm not really sure. They're just extra weird, and you know, they're really enjoying making these. And so, let me see. We interrupt this program. Episode 4. We interrupt this program. Captain Monica Rambeau and an agent of S.W.O.R.D. returns to life following the blip to find her mother Maria has died of cancer. So returning to life following the blip. This is when Thanos snapped everybody away. There was like a 3-year lull in between Infinity War and I believe I want to say Endgame. I think it was 3 years. And during that 3 years, Maria has found out that her mother has died of cancer. And we are put on the ground floor of a hospital of people just coming back from the snap of, I assume what the snap is, it's when the Hulk did it. I believe it's who did it. Did he do it? It's either the Hulk or Iron Man. I can't remember who brought him back. But one of the two brought him back, and this is when everybody's like coming back, and you can see the specific transition of how they show people leaving to when they're leaving with the blip, and now they're coming back with the blip. It's like it's a really cool effect, and also horrifying to think about the ramifications. The more about the blip and all the ramifications of that. It was talked about as a joke for the longest time, and then when you go back and think about the ramifications of a blip, it's straight up like people coming back and their spouses have remarried. The people are coming back and people that they used to love have died. People coming back from the blip are going to find that their lives are completely out of whack. I think they talked about it more as a joke in Spider-Man, but still, this was very upsetting to see. And then they were like, oh yeah, I think there was a doctor there that says, oh yeah, you've been missing and your mother died. And it's like, but wouldn't you ask if you've been missing? Like that would have been the main thing for me. I'd have been like, why didn't you fucking say anything? And where have I been? Where have you been? That type of shit. It's just like, I did think the actress who was like, oh yeah, by the way, your mother has died and you've been missing. It's like, if you've been missing, wouldn't you be like surprised about that? So, yeah, it's just like putting people on the ground floor of the blip is absolutely horrifying. And yeah, if y'all haven't watched The Leftovers, I gotta tell y'all, go check The Leftovers out. Y'all want to see some crazy stuff of like a real life interpretation of what if this shit actually happened. 3 weeks later, Monica returns to work and is sent by acting director Tyler Hayward to help FBI agent Jimmy Woo with a missing persons case in Westview. I gotta be honest, I don't know any grown men named Tyler that aren't a country singer. So I really enjoy having Jimmy Woo on this. He is originally showing up back, reprising his role from Ant-Man, I think, and still doing the magic tricks. There's a lot of callbacks within Marvel. They've established such a branch of personalities and everything, of these people just intertwining and having these cool little twerks and quirks and all that stuff, like Jimmy Woo trying to do this magic trick. It's just small things like that are just funny to put in, or they're cute to put in for people that are longtime watchers and really study these scenes and just understand them from the comic point, or even just watching it from watching it on the movies or television shows. Now they're kind of blending the movies and televisions together. And from the cinematography, I love how they're always changing the aspect ratio and everything, even between going from Wanda's the WandaVision show all the way to the regular program. They go like from the 16:9 to the full aspect ratio. I mean, I'm really impressed by the editing of this, and it's feels like we're in good hands. I was a little bit skeptical in the first two episodes, which first two episodes can always be a little bit hit or miss. So I do think it's only gotten better as it's progressed. So they discover a hexagonal static CMBR's field surrounding their own town, which Monica is pulled up to within 24 hours. SWORD establishes a base around the town and sends drones and an agent in to investigate. Dr. Darcy Lewis studies the phenomena and discovers broadcast signals for the sitcom WandaVision. They use these to observe events inside their town, learning that the real residents have been cast in the sitcom and seeing Monica appear as Geraldine. And so this is where we find out all of this shit is really happening for real. I mean, I don't think it's established till the fourth episode that this might just be happening in somebody's head. It is being broadcast in somebody by, I guess, Wanda's head, I guess. But on a more broad perspective, these are real people that are being cast. And I enjoy the kind of fourth wall breaking of like, all right, we got to show everybody, we got to show how this world works. I mean, I love how they're like, this character is a real person in New Jersey, and they're like, all right, this person is another person in New Jersey. This is another missing person in New Jersey. Where are the kids? That kind of thing. And they're trying to figure out how all of reality is being distorted or being changed. And it seems that Wanda is just changing everything about it. She's changing the lives that they're living in the actual. The world is being changed by, if you have the modern day, what's it called, guy in a suit walking in cryogenic chamber, not cryogenic chamber, but like a full suit on so that you don't get like infected with anything, full outbreak suit, and then it changes to a beekeeper suit. It's the things that are going into the WandaVision circle, perimeter, hex, whatever you want to call it, that they're changing to fit the time. And so she's changing complete reality. And it's like, this is intense. I don't know how exactly all of this happened, but I'm glad that they are almost answering word for word the same things that us as the audience are asking week to week and listening to on our podcast. What is going on with this? What the hell's going on? And so I feel like they are doing a pretty good job at holding our hand, at bringing us into what's going on up until the end of the fifth episode. So let me finish 4 and we're going to talk about it. Darcy and Jimmy unsuccessfully attempt to use the radio to contact Wanda. When Monica mentions Ultron, Wanda casts her out of the town. I do feel like when Wanda hit her with that whoosh, she literally it should have killed her. I don't really understand why she went through all these different, she went through real walls and she was fine at the end. She said Wanda did that to her on purpose, but it is very scary to see Geraldine kind of confront Wanda to say, do you remember this? Do you remember what's going on? Can I help you? That type of thing. Wanda says, buck off. So the sitcom illusion disappears and Wanda sees Vision appear as he did when he died. And so when Wanda looks at Vision on that episode, it's like, oh shit. She kind of remembers what Thanos did to him with the freaking little Uzi verted his 24 million, time diamond or whatever the hell that's in his, embedded in his head. Did y'all see that little Uzi vert shit do that? I just got to do a side tangent real quick. That is the most ridiculous thing you could do, is get a diamond that over $1 million embedded in the front of your head and not expect someone to say some craziness about. I mean, you got to be ridiculous. Lil Uzi Vert got a $24 million dollar diamond embedded in his head that he can remove at his whim. But I mean, if you could just remove it that easily, then someone's gonna Thanos his ass. I'm just gonna say that right now. He has to watch out. I mean, imagine like bumping your head on something, or like using like having glasses like rub up against it, like scrape. Oh, it sounds terrible. Anyways, just talk about wasting money. So let's talk about episode 5. On a very special episode. So, when this happened on a very special episode, I saw everyone saying, watch Vision, watch WandaVision, watch this shit, because otherwise you're going to get spoiled. And so, if you haven't seen episode 5, I just want to tell you right now, we're about to spoil episode 5 and all of its glory. This is what changes the Marvel MCU universe from here on out. And the thing is, they don't have to fully commit to it if they don't want to, but I really think that this is going to bust open the door to the next side of the Marvel MCU. And Kevin Feige, you devil on you, I know what you're doing. You're playing it safe in a way that you could say, oh yeah, we're just doing it on the television. It might not actually matter, but they could actually make it matter if they wanted to. So, in 1980s setting, Wanda and Vision struggled to stop Tommy and Billy from crying. They do a like a Family Matters, Full House kind of parody in a way. But I actually heard like Step by Step might be something like it. But it's actually kind of sad at the beginning, the lyrics. In 1980s setting, Wanda and Vision struggle to stop Tommy and Billy from crying. Agnes offers to help look after the boys, but Vision questions her behavior. It shows them growing up at the beginning, the intro. It's a very lavish intro, to be honest. He and Wanda are interrupted when Tommy and Billy suddenly age up to 5 years old. Some people would say that Agnes has something to do with this because she just keeps popping up and able to help them with anything. Does she have anything to influence or to help Wanda? I know she wants to help. I know she said she wanted to look after the boys, and I think she physically says that. And so it's like, So, let me see. When a dog appears at their house, the boys ask to keep it, and Agnes suggests the name Sparky. This is actually a comic book dog. Go back in the comics and you'll hear about Sparky the lucky dog. Wanda almost reveals her abilities to Agnes concerning Vision, while the boys age up to 10 years old. So in between this like little speck, these guys, these little babies keep aging themselves up, and it seems that they're doing it on their own terms, not Wanda or nor. So do they have the ability to change their own reality, and who controls them? It seems like they might have their own agenda in a way, if they're 100%. And by this episode, they say everything that's happening on the show seems to actually be real. And I don't think that we have talked about Wanda, what Wanda has done to Vision. Okay, so the boys age up to 10 years old. At work, Vision reads an email from Sword that reveals the situation in Westview. He manages to break through to a real Westview resident and discovers Wanda is seemingly controlling the town. Sword sends a drone from the 1980s into Westview and attempts to kill Wanda on Hayward's orders. First of all, a 1980s drone is not going to kill someone that's this powerful. I don't even know what the thinking was. And seeing that Wanda is controlling all of these characters and all the people in the town it's horrifying. I mean, you don't want to be under the control. I mean, the first thing he does is like, oh my God, where are my kids? Where's my mother? Oh God, and he's back. And that actor was fascinating to watch. I mean, he freaks the fuck out, and then all of a sudden he's like back in it. It was like perfect. Wouldn't mind seeing him on more stuff. So let's see. He manages to break through. Okay, so Sword sends a drone, try to kill Wanda on Hayward's orders. Now, Hayward hates Wanda. Hayward seems to only be focusing on all the terrible things Wanda has done, and not really talked about any of the positive things she's done. And so he's really anti-Wanda and Vision at this point, mostly Wanda. Wanda emerges from the static field with the drone and warns Hayward to leave her alone. Scared by the drone, Sparky runs away and later is found dead by Agnes. This was just like random. I was like, okay. And so it's kind of like they're trying to do like a small metaphor. You know, you can't bring back the dead. You can't bring back Sparky. You can't bring back Vision. Because Vision at this point is dead on the timeline. However, it's shown that Wanda has actually, in the real world, she's broken into the sword facility where they may or may not have been secretly testing on Vision's body, but she essentially broke him out, or what was left of him, and brought him back to life somehow. It's not exactly explained I don't think it's upfront explained, but that's essentially what's happened. And from here, Vision confronts Wanda about her actions, but they are interrupted when Pedro arrives. Watching the broadcast, Darcy notes that Pedro has been recast. And so, Pedro, who the hell is Pedro? Everyone's like, okay, so who's this character? Okay, so for long-term people that understand where this is going on. So Pedro is Wanda's brother. Now, he was originally played by Aaron Taylor Johnson in the MCU, and he was killed, I think, by Ultron or something like that. And Evan Peters, who also plays the same character from a different studio. And that studio has been acquired by Marvel. So, to make this as simplified as possible, Aaron Taylor Johnson was playing with Marvel, and then he was taken off as the brother for Quicksilver. But on another timeline, essentially Evan Peters was playing Pedro as well. And so what they've done is they've crossed over these two properties. They've said, all right, the X-Men Quicksilver and the Marvel Quicksilver have to be the same guy in some sort of mysterious multiverse way. But they also they are able to get around it by saying this is a recast within her head show, but it's also a recast in the real life too. So it's almost quadruple fourth wall breaking in a way. It's like, oh my gosh, they're bringing X-Men Quicksilver into the MCU Quicksilver timeline and doing like this crazy convergence of these characters. Now, what does this mean? Now, this means that they could either just completely ignore the rest of the X-Men and say, oh, Evan Peters probably came through some sort of multiverse portal of some sort. But if they really wanted to go hog wild, they might have the opening to have Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness bring all of the X-Men into the Marvel MCU universe. What this does is it's creating the first bridge of the connecting, restoring the divide that was originally Marvel and X-Men. They used to be, I think, all in the comics, they used to all intertwine. Everyone's talked about having, Deadpool and Wolverine on the same screen, but would that ever really work? Now we're actually seeing that possibility become a reality. It's the thing is, they are able to say that this might not, if this doesn't work, they can completely scrap the thing. I think they could easily say, you know what, we're not going to do X-Men and Marvel and not do it. That's kind of a project down the road. Don't have Fantastic Four and all that. But if they did want to do it, this is the way to do it. I think that when Pedro shows up at the door, and I'm like, wait, who's at the door? I thought it was going to be like an old Tony Stark or something like that. But no, it was her brother from another studio property, which is, if anyone understands, it's like having Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny on the same screen in a movie. It's just, I mean, it's not to that degree, but it's like two studios that are coming together to combine an even bigger project. Now, I know that, Bugs Bunny and Warner Brothers and Disney are two different properties. They're not going to do all that. But what I'm saying is, it's the fact that it's almost two big powerhouses coming together. And I know that Fox was bought out by Disney, so they are allowed to do that now. Naturally, part of the MCU would be to expand on the world. It would be to bring in the X-Men. It would be to bring in the Fantastic Four and all of, the good and the bad that comes from, the good guys and the bad guys. So, I think this worked really well. I have heard some minor complaints about it, saying, oh, this didn't really fit well with me. How is this going to work? This requires too much knowledge of other properties. It's like, I don't know what you want me to say. I mean, Marvel has laid out a history of saying, we got a story, but I mean, if you want to start from the beginning, you got to start over here. And if you want to follow us, otherwise hop on when it's good. And honestly, I don't think it's ever really been bad. So following the entire Marvel cinematic timeline over the past 10, 20 years has been really fun to do and really easy to do. I mean, since Kevin Feige has run this ship, it feels very much that we can go back and watch any of these things. Now, when it comes to like watching like X-Men and stuff like that, the whole timeline feels so convoluted, and sometimes do things even matter at some points? I don't ever feel like it was ever laid out clearly. So that's maybe where it gets a little bit hairy, and you're like, all right, I didn't see X-Men Apocalypse, so I don't know exactly why Evan Peters is here. What is he doing? That's not explained, but it still says that, the Evan Peters Quicksilver Pedro character has had experiences in the X-Men universe that the Marvel Quicksilver has not had yet. So what knowledge is he taking with him from here? There's so much stuff that we have to talk about, or that can be explored through this, although we don't have enough time for all that. But just wanted to say, this is the beginning of the crossover that is. And they're also, like I said, they're putting it there in a way that it doesn't have to be set in stone if it didn't land. Let's just say they got horrible feedback on this, which I don't think they're getting horrible feedback. Then they could easily say, oh, this was just made up. Oh, it's not real. Oh, don't worry about it. But I think this is really kicking open the door for it. And having Evan Peters kind of be the guy to cross over between the MCU, I think Deadpool was owned as an X-Men, I think. It was under Fox too, so I don't think that's it. But having Evan Peters be the guy to cross it over, like, oh, what's going on? Oh, this is cool, I guess. Like, what? Oh, who? And he doesn't know Vision, apparently, because apparently her previous brother, the guy who played Quicksilver originally, would have known Vision. So this other guy does not know Vision. So yeah, it's just so much is going on. Commercial during WandaVision program advertises Lagos paper towels, possibly the Redstone. I don't know who. Possibly might be a Mind Stone. Possibly might be anything. I don't know. And the actors in it have something to do with possibly Hydra. There's a lot of behind the scenes, like I said, Easter egg stuff that I'm just not going to cover. Let the professionals do it. I'm mostly talking about the overarching story. Did it work? Did it not work? I think overarching, this has been a really fun show, watching it week to week. It's going to run through, I think there's 4 more weeks of it, which is pretty good. I can't believe we're on episode 5 and there's still this many more to go. Lot to crack open, leading into the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I believe, coming up in a couple months, in like 2 months. So Disney Plus is starting to really roll out some high-level stuff that people want to tune into. And, Kevin Feige just dropping this Easter egg in the middle of episode 5 of WandaVision. If that doesn't have people, squirming to get up to episode 5 to understand what's going on, I don't know what's going to, because he's literally introducing one of the biggest bombs you could in the MCU since Endgame. So, yeah, thank you for listening, watching LuckyDog Podcast. Thank you for watching, listening, LuckyDog Podcast. Let me know how I can improve the WandaVision review. I know I'm not as thorough as everybody else is. If there's anything I got wrong or needs to be corrected, just do that in the YouTube comments. Just go ahead and rake me over the coals there. But, be nice. If I just terrible review, tell me how to take it and shove it. But yeah, otherwise, thumbs up, subscribe, rate, share, follow, do whatever you can to support. 5 stars on iTunes, that really helps. And you're listening to this live on Twitch, and you can get it early on Patreon. You can get it early on Patreon. Twitch. You can get it mastered on SoundCloud. You can get it on all the popular podcast apps that you like listening to the LuckyDog podcast on. So thank you for listening, watching LuckyDog podcast. Take it easy.